Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for the Baltimore Ravens at the Arizona Cardinals in their Week 7 matchup played October 26, 2015 on Monday Night Football. We're going to go over the scores and the stats and give our breakdown and analysis. So let's get started in the first quarter with about 5.5 minutes left. Justin Tucker hit a 44-yard field goal to put the first points on the board to make it 3-0 Baltimore over Arizona. Then about a minute and a half later, Chris Johnson scored on a 26-yard touchdown run. Chandler Catanzaro added the extra point, and it was 7-3 as the Cardinals took the lead by 4 in the first. So then in the second quarter, with about 4 minutes left before halftime, Justin Forsett ran it in from 14 yards out for the touchdown. Justin Tucker added the extra point, and now the Ravens were back in the lead by 3 with the score Baltimore 10, Arizona 7. Then, with a minute left before halftime, Carson Palmer hit Michael Floyd for a 3-yard touchdown. Catanzaro added the extra point, and now the Cards were back up by 4 with the score Arizona 14, Baltimore 10. So that was the score at halftime. Then in the third quarter, with less than 10 minutes left in the third, Chandler Catanzaro hit a 21-yard field goal, and it was 17-10 as the Cardinals pushed their lead to 7. Then with about 2.5 minutes still left in the third, Catanzaro hit another 21-yard field goal, and now it was a 10-point lead for Arizona with the score 20-10 Cards over the Ravens. Then in the fourth quarter, Carson Palmer hits John Brown for a 4-yard touchdown with about 8 minutes left in this game, and it was now 26-10 as the Cardinals now led by 16 as they had scored 19 straight points going back to the last minute of the second quarter. So now, with about 4.5 minutes left, Joe Flacco would hit Kyle Juszczyk for a 1-yard touchdown, and then they went for 2. And so Flacco went to Nick Boyle, and now with the 2 points, it was an 8-point game with the score 26-18. So interesting there. Thought maybe Arizona cost them not getting that extra point, but now at this point the Cardinals would get the ball and they would end up having to punt it back to the Ravens after a penalty cost them and pushed them back. And so now Arizona would they would punt the ball from their own 38. Baltimore would take over on their own 24 with less than 2 minutes left in this game with a chance to send it to overtime after it looked like the Cardinals had been running away with it there in the second half and deep into this fourth quarter. But right here, Flacco started marching them down the field. They were faced with a 4th and 1 on their own 33, but Flacco found the tight end Gilmore for a 9-yard reception, which gave him a first down at the 42. They picked up another first down, and then on 2nd and 10, Flacco aired it out to Gilmore for a 23-yard reception, and now they were right there at the 4-yard line. Of course, just a couple plays earlier, Givens had gained 31 yards to bring it across midfield. But here now, it's 1st and goal after the 23-yard catch by Gilmore brought down to the Arizona 4-yard line. Flacco would spike the ball with just 18 seconds left. Now on 2nd and goal, they would get a penalty for an illegal shift. And so now the Cardinals would take a timeout. And now it was 2nd and goal from the 9 for the Ravens with a chance to tie this game with a touchdown and a 2-point conversion as they trailed by 8. Joe Flacco drops back and he's intercepted by Jefferson in the end zone. And now the Cardinals take over. The interception seals the deal, and all that was left to do was to take the knee in the victory formation as Carson Palmer and the Cardinals win this one 26-18 with a whole lot of help from that secondary and their defense. And all game long, I'll tell you, the Honey Badger was having quite the game. The secondary all around. So it seemed like as if the Honey Badger was making plays left and right, Tyrann Mathieu. But Jefferson with that interception there at the end, the only interception in this game is Flacco had been 26 for 40, 252 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Carson Palmer, 20 for 29, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. And on the ground, Chris Johnson was getting it done. He had a 62-yard run. That was quite a crazy run where it looked like he was down. He actually almost like sat down on the defender, but the whistle didn't blow, so he got up and he kept running, and it ended up being a 62-yard gain. He ended up with 122 yards on the game. Of course, they said half of them came on that crazy play, but it was 18 carries for 122 yards and a touchdown for the ageless Chris Johnson, as he is sure having a big year here in 2015. And for the Ravens, their leading rusher was Justin Forsett, 12 carries for just 36 yards and a touchdown. But then we look at the receivers, leading receiver Steve Smith, who's also having a pretty good year as he's chasing the records, as he's going for those career receptions up that list. But he has 5 receptions for 78 yards in this game. The tight end Gilmore, 5 receptions for 53 yards. And then for the Cardinals, John Brown, he had a hamstring injury going into the game, but he led the Cardinals in receiving with 4 receptions for 65 yards and a touchdown. The tight end Gresham, 4 receptions for 62 yards. And Michael Floyd, 3 receptions for 59 yards and a touchdown. Larry Fitzgerald, 3 receptions for 39 yards. When we look at the kickers, Chandler Catanzaro, 2 for 3 on field goals, 2 for 3 on extra points. Tucker, 1 for 1 on the field goals, 1 for 1 on the extra points. And on defense, Smith led the Ravens with 8 tackles. Buchanan and Johnson and Mathieu each had 7 tackles for the Cardinals. The Honey Badger also had a sack, and Jefferson had an interception. Freeney and Rucker also had sacks for the Cards. For the Ravens, as I said, Smith with 8 tackles. Mosley had a sack or had a sack. And now we look at the team stats. 21 first downs for the Cardinals, 18 first downs for the Ravens. We look at third downs. 5 for 12 for Arizona, 41% converted. 5 for 13 for Baltimore, 38% converted. The Ravens went for it once on 4th down, and they did convert. That was on that final drive. And then we look at the total net yards, 414 for Arizona netted, just 276 netted for Baltimore. On the ground, 150 yards netted for the Cards, just 55 yards on the ground for the Ravens. Net passing, 264 for Arizona, as Palmer was sacked twice for a loss of 11 yards total. And net passing yards for the Ravens, 221, as Flacco was sacked 3 times for a total of 31 yards lost. Look at the penalties. 9 penalties against the Ravens for 64 yards. 4 penalties against the Cardinals for 40 yards. The Ravens lost 1 fumble. The Cardinals fumbled twice but did not lose either. When we look at the red zone, 2 for 4. Both teams were 50%. They were both 2 for 4 in the red zone. And the Ravens actually had the ball longer, just barely, as they had the ball 30 minutes and 24 seconds versus 29 minutes and 36 seconds for the Cardinals. It was all about the defense in this game. The pass rush of the Cardinals was putting a lot of pressure on Flacco. Give him credit, though, for making it an interesting game, as the Ravens are now 1-6. The Cardinals improved to 5-2 on the year, as they are in first place there in the NFC West. A tough division for sure, especially with the Seahawks and the Rams. Not so much the Niners, but the Rams got a pretty good D, and the Seahawks, of course, the defending NFC champions. But the Ravens at 1-6, I'll tell you, they actually have a lot of talent, and you got to give Arizona credit for beating them even in Arizona. It's the Ravens. They got injuries on defense, but they also, their real problem is just their offense. The Trestman. Trestman's a good quarterback coach, but the play calling, the abundance of passing plays above running plays is what really hurts the Ravens. That's what I was saying at the beginning of the season in my season preview for them. That's why I didn't really expect them to do much this year. But it's not Flacco's fault. He's just been put in a position to fail. As you see, he threw the ball 40 times in this game. Forsett only had 12 carries. And besides Forsett, you had 3 carries for Allen, 1 carry for Gibbons. That's only 16 running plays versus 40 passing plays. That's why the Ravens are 1-6, because of bad play calling. And not to mention, when they tried that trick play, and you see that the Patriots are still in the Ravens' heads. What are you doing, Harbaugh? Trying to do this trick play, and they got called for earlier because they sent out the left tackle for a pass. But the thing is that, as I understand, with the formation, you can't have the guy on the end. You can't have the left tackle. There's got to be another guy there. He could be another lineman, but then they don't. You have to have that core. You have to have the 7 guys on line, and the very end guy can't be the guy. but unless there's another guy there, if you understand what I'm saying. But anyway, it was a hard-fought victory for the Cardinals. They looked like they were starting to run away with it when they were up 26-10. But you can never count the Ravens out, especially Flacco with that arm. He certainly can sling the ball and air it out and, bring the team back into the game. And they almost, sent it into overtime. But really, the Cardinals were pretty dominant in the game. They said they were in control for the most part. But the Ravens are talented. This league is full of parity. And so there's no team that's really that much worse than any other team. Any team can win on any given Sunday, although this was a Monday night game. But the Cardinals, they just are so good on defense. They're making big plays in that secondary. Only the one interception, but they were making some big plays that don't necessarily show up in the stat sheet. And they've got quite the defense. Like I said, they were putting the pressure on Flacco. They sacked him 3 times, but they were in that backfield all game long as he was just under pressure and just really feeling the heat there in the desert. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and having a good week, and enjoy all the sports.